What does she really think when you disappear? Buckle up, because today's truth might just rattle your cage when you stop chasing her. It's not tears and love songs, it's a reality check with a dash of stoicism, see? Stoics teach us about detachment and the power of focusing on what we can control. What happens when you stop texting her all the time? She's not pining, she's thinking about your quick breakup. Change from expected to interesting. She might even ask you if you've decided to stop doing what everyone else does. Instead, to stand out, and you might think she wants you back so badly. Don't believe it? Some people play a game called emotional peekaboo, showing up again to see how you respond and guess what most people think you'll do. As always, react, but here's a somber take on it. What if you change your mind? Your silence speaks volumes about your self-worth and emotional independence. Don't just sit there, take charge of your reactions, and maybe, just maybe, she'll begin to look for the mystery you've turned into. And don't forget to click, like, and subscribe, and set off that alarm. Now let's go into more detail. The Stoic attitude and turn things around to help you. Stay tuned and let's get not lost together. Number one, the feeling of being one. The feeling of being turned down. Since we all know what it's like to be turned down, let's talk about rejection. That terrible experience that hurts your pride, that no one wants to say they've had, but all of us have. Now picture this. You stop chasing her and don't slowly fade away. But suddenly, like a ghost, 1 minute you are her world, showering her with 1 second you have her full attention, and the next she's gone. It's like pulling the rug out from under her feet when you disappear without a trace. At first, she might brush it off at first, but soon the truth of the matter comes out. Suddenly she goes from being like the queen of the universe to wondering what happened and what I did something wrong. Why isn't he interested anymore? Her ego, once sky high, takes a hit. And now comes the real mental roller coaster. First, she feels sadness. It's not just the lack of your attention, it's a deeper sense of being thrown away. She starts to feel like the time you spent on her isn't worth it. In her, now means nothing, trust me. Her mind spirals, every unread message, when I miss a call, I wonder, did I say something wrong? Am I not as interesting? As I thought, she's looking for answers, where there are none but after sadness. When she gets angry, she asks herself, who does he think he is just? Leaving like that, how dare he ignore me? Her ego is now hurt, and she fights. Back she's mad at you, of course, but the anger often turns inward too. She starts wondering, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? And the comparison game begins. Maybe you're with someone else. Maybe you're playing games with her emotions. It eats at her. And then comes the shame. The shame of being turned down is so great that she doesn't want anyone to see it. Starts hiding behind fake smiles, trying to keep up appearances in her head. She's imagining everyone seeing her as the girl who couldn't keep your attention, the girl who got left behind publicly. She'll try to act like it doesn't bother her. But inside, she's a storm of insecurity. Here's where Stoicism comes into play. You, having stepped back, aren't doing this out of malice. You've simply let go, detached from the outcome. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control how others feel or react. You've stopped pursuing her, not to provoke a reaction, but because you've embraced a philosophy of letting things unfold naturally without attachment. And while you've stepped away, she's in full reflection mode. Every conversation, every little gesture, every glance shared between the two of you gets replayed in her mind. She starts wondering what she could have done differently. Should she have been warmer, colder, played hard to? Self-reflection is useful, but it also has some downsides. Twist, while she's busy studying every detail, you're just out there living your life, unbothered. The key to navigating this isn't about living with the knowledge that you can't control how other people feel or behave. is what manipulation is all about. You keep your peace of mind by taking a step back and not expecting anything in return. Do not worry, she might come running back, but she might not. The great thing is that you don't have to worry about that. Caring too much gives her the power, but indifference, that's the end trump card. So, to sum this up, rejection hurts and forces both parties to reflect, to question, to wonder. But here's the Stoic truth: you get to decide how much you let it affect you. If you walk away and keep walking, letting her wrestle with her own thoughts, you'll realize that peace lies in detachment. Don't look back, let her figure out how she feels on her own while you move on. Stronger and unbothered. Before we dive into the next point, take a moment to reflect. Think about your own experiences with rejection. How did it shape your mindset, your actions, or even your self-worth? Has there ever been a time when taking a step back helped you see things more clearly? And peace you needed? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back, share what you've learned, or simply type peace lies in detachment to remember how powerful it is to let go. Now let's move on and go on an adventure. What's next? Number 2, the feeling of missing two. The feeling of losing something. It's funny how people, especially women, start to value you more when you're not right next to them. Like a psychological game, and believe me, it's fascinating to watch. You haven't left her forever, but the second you stop chasing her, everything changes. It's as if your absence pulls the rug from under her feet, triggering a wave of emotions she wasn't prepared for. Suddenly she's overwhelmed with the fear of losing you, and it's in that very moment that she realizes how much she truly cared. But here's the kicker: when you were there, giving her your time, your energy, and showing her you were the nice guy, she barely noticed. You were just another option, just another guy who was there when she needed. But when you step back, when you disappear into the background, that's when her world flips upside down. It's comical, really. All it took was your sudden disappearance, and boom, now you're the prize. She didn't even know she wanted in that moment. Something changes within her. The fear of losing you, or the feeling of loss, becomes what drives them. She starts to play through all of her memories over and over again in her head, like an endless movie reel. The funny times you shared, the small, everyday conversations, now seem like priceless gems. It's as if your absence elevates you to some untouchable status in her mind. She starts to wonder, have I really lost him? Is there still a chance to fix this? And that's when the overthinking kicks in. Her mind spirals into a cycle of self-doubt and panic, analyzing every interaction like a detective searching for clues to where things went wrong. Let's be honest here, she hasn't actually lost anything. You didn't have a big fight. There was no dramatic breakup. You simply became unavailable, and that's when the magic happened. Stoicism teaches us that loss is often more perceived than real. And in her case, it's the fear of potential loss that shakes her to the core, that maybe the uncertainty is what keeps her in turmoil. But here's the Stoic reality: this feeling of loss, it's temporary. Sure, she might panic for a bit, she might try to win you back, and perhaps she'll succeed. But once you're back, once you're fully available again, that sense of urgency fades away, and guess what? She'll likely return to her old ways, treating you with indifference like before, because now the fear of losing you is gone, you're back. So why worry? Think of it like Black Friday during the sale. Everyone's desperate to get their hands on something. But once the sale is over, they lose interest in what they bought. If you don't keep your distance, she'll value you only when she feels you're slipping away. But once she's comfortable again, it's back to square one. Here's where the Stoic mindset comes into play. You must maintain your own boundaries. Don't let the temporary chase fool you into thinking she'll always value you. The key is to never be fully available, because in the end, it's the fear of loss that keeps her invested. It's not about playing games. It's about knowing your worth and never allowing yourself to be taken for granted. You must embody the Stoic principle of detachment. Remain calm, in control, and never fully accessible. If you've had enough of being the one she only values when she feels she's losing you, it's time to change. the story. Don't be that product that everyone rushes to buy, but then forgets about once the panic is over. Instead, be that rare, hard-to-find thing that people will always want but never fully get. Within reach. If you think this way, you'll stop being the man she takes for granted and start being the man she wishes she had not lost. If you're sick of being a disposable option, it's time to break the cycle and take charge of your life, your emotions, and your worth. Reading the digital book described below will teach you how to not care, how to stop these games, and most importantly, how to make her realize what she's lost. She's had enough of being walked over. It's time to be the man she didn't know she needed until it was too late. An interest, curiosity is a strong feeling that can take over her mind, keep her up at night and make her do things she normally wouldn't think about. When you leave her life, when you stop chasing her and disappear without a trace, you leave a hole that her mind will fill with thoughts of you. You've become a question that needs an answer. Let me ask you this. How often do people really stop and think about what's going on when they know exactly what's going on? Almost never. When you step back and don't offer her any, it's the unknown that draws her in. Clarity. Her mind starts to race as she thinks, what made him leave? Did he find someone better? Was it something I did? She can't stop thinking about all the possibilities, and with each passing moment she wants to know more and more. One of the main ideas in Stoicism is emotional strength and control. A Stoic person doesn't react emotionally or impulsively. Instead, they understand the power of restraint. This is exactly the mindset you adopt when you disappear. You're not ghosting her out of spite or to play games. You're choosing to step back and keep your cool. The chaos that happens in her mind is out of your hands, but it's a normal part of being human. Let me have it. You learn more about what happens in her mind when you pull away. It turns into a battlefield of doubts and questions. She'll start looking for answers in everything. First, she'll stalk your social media, looking at every post, story, and like as if it were a clue in a mystery. She'll see if you're going out, if you've met someone new, or if your life is going on without her. Next, she'll talk to your mutual friends to find out anything she can, like, has he mentioned me? Or, is he seeing someone else? She might even ask your family what's going on to get an answer. Now, Stoicism comes back into play. One of its rules is knowing what you can and can't control. You can't control her feelings or her curiosity, but you can control your silence and your actions by not answering her questions. You keep your cool and follow through with your plans. Center in her storm of questions. This emotional control is what makes you both interesting and strong in her eyes. She'll want to figure out what makes you tick, and the more you fight it, the more she'll want to do it. But here's a key point. Curiosity is fragile. It lives on the unknown. But as soon as you give her even a hint of an answer, the magic is gone. If she finds out why you disappeared, or that you're purposely keeping the information from her, the mystery goes away. That's why you need to stay disciplined. Stoicism tells us that we shouldn't let our feelings control what we do. Be careful not to give her the answers she wants. If you do, you might kill the very thing that makes her think of you. There is a dark side to curiosity that can turn into obsession. She may start showing up at places you frequent while saying it's just a coincidence. She may look through all of your online interactions, putting together pieces of your life that you didn't even know were public. It's all part of her desperate attempt to figure out who you are, but the truth is, she can't. The key to keeping her curiosity alive is to never fully understand your motives or reasoning. You must remain an enigma, a mystery she can't quite figure out. Stoicism also teaches us about detachment. When you pull away, you're practicing detachment, letting go of the need for validation or closure. You know you don't owe anyone an explanation for your actions. This way, you stay in control while she's stuck in the cycle of curiosity and uncertainty. Let her search for answers that don't exist, because in the end, curiosity may not kill the cat, but it will keep her chasing after the one she can't seem to figure out. You number 4, self-reflection. 4, self-reflection. Imagine this, you've been there giving her attention, not overdoing it, but just enough that she knows you're interested. Then one day, you make the decision to step back, not because you're playing some game, but because you've realized your own worth. You stop texting her, stop showing up as that constant presence now, instead of just being another guy in the background. Something profound starts to unfold. You've disappeared, and that sends her into a spiral of confusion. For a woman who's used to constant attention, this sudden absence hits hard. She's accustomed to having men vying for her time and validation. She's used to having her ego fed by others who compete for her affection. But you've dared to be different. You've walked away from the typical chase, and that shakes her world. And this is where the teachings of Stoicism come into play. By stepping away, by refusing to be controlled by desire or the need for external validation, you embody the Stoic ideal of self-control. You are not allowing her whims to dictate your actions, and that in itself is powerful. At first, she might shrug it off. She thinks he'll come back. They always do. But as the days go by and you remain distant, she begins to wonder, and here's where things start to shift. She starts asking herself, why isn't he chasing me? Did I do something wrong? That seed of doubt is now planted, and it starts to grow. She replays every conversation, every message, every interaction, trying to figure out what she might have done to push you away. She's stepping into her own self-reflection, questioning the very dynamics of your connection. This is the very discomfort that the Stoics speak of, the discomfort of losing control. You see, women who are used to attention often live in a comfort zone where they're in command. They pull the strings and others dance. But now with you gone, she's faced with something unfamiliar. Her loss of control, her ego, which was once inflated by the constant validation of others, begins to shrink. She starts to second-guess herself. Maybe she wasn't as interesting as she thought. Maybe you saw something in her that made you lose interest, and these thoughts drive her to reevaluate who she is and how she's been behaving. Let's pause for a moment and bring in a real-life example. Think about a situation where you've decided to step back from someone who seemed to expect constant attention. Maybe you decided to focus on yourself for a bit. Maybe work, hobbies, or your own growth took priority. At first, it felt empowering because you weren't chasing validation anymore. But then something strange happened. She reached out. Why? Because your absence disrupted the usual dynamic, and it forced her to reflect. She began to realize that you weren't like the others, and this made her question herself. This shift in perspective for her can lead to two very different outcomes. In one case, she might decide she needs to win you back. She'll make subtle moves to test the waters, reaching out to see if you're still available, trying to reignite that connection. She's no longer trying to dominate. Instead, she's seeking validation herself. She wants to prove to herself that she didn't lose control over you. Her ego demands it because she's not used to being the one left in uncertainty. But remember, from a Stoic point of view, your power lies in your indifference. You don't react emotionally. You've already decided to focus on your own path. So whether she comes back or not doesn't control you in the other scenario. After all her internal turmoil, she might come to a different conclusion. She may decide that your distance is a relief. She might convince herself that you weren't worth the effort, or that the connection wasn't as strong as she thought. But here's the kicker. Even if she moves on, there's a part of her that will always remember you as the one who did play by the usual rules. You'll remain in her mind as someone who stood apart, someone who wasn't willing to jump through hoops, and that, my friend, is something she won't easily forget in the end. while she's spiraling into self-reflection, wondering what went wrong. You've already moved forward. You've turned your attention back to what truly matters, your growth, your goals, your peace. That's when she realizes she wasn't in charge after all. That's when the reality check comes in. Not everything goes as planned, and sometimes the problem isn't with you or the other guys, it's with her. And here's the ultimate victory. You win not by getting her back, but by choosing yourself. You've taken the high road, and in doing so, you've gained something far more valuable than her attention, control over your own emotions. That, in the end, is the real victory. 5. She'll chase you, which is when things really get interesting. You see, when you suddenly leave or pull away without giving a reason, it starts a fire. Inside her, it's like flipping a switch that she didn't even know existed. A mix of rejection and curiosity takes over, and before you know it, she's chasing you. Yes, my friend, it happens more than you think. Imagine this scenario. You've stopped texting. You're no longer available like you used to be, and suddenly she finds herself wondering what happened, what changed. Why are you no longer under her influence? This is where it gets fascinating. You're no longer predictable, and in her mind she starts to lose control over the situation. And this right here is the spark that fuels her obsession. Now let me break it down for you. Her first move is subtle but deliberate. She'll start keeping tabs on your online presence like a hawk. Every time you post something on social media, guess who's the first to view it? That's right. She will be right there, watching every story you share, every photo you upload. And don't be surprised if she suddenly starts liking pictures from years ago. Yes, even those awkward ones from 2018. Why? Because she wants you to notice that she's still watching, she's still interested, but it doesn't stop there. If you don't give her enough information, she might go even further. She might get creative and even make fake profiles to keep an eye on you without being seen. It's like she becomes a digital detective, looking for clues about where you are, who you're with, and most importantly, whether you've moved on without her. And just when you think that's all she'll do, she'll get someone else to help. She might send a friend to follow your account and quietly stalk every post you make. That friend's husband might even join the surveillance team to keep things quiet. It's like she won't let you lose. This isn't as unusual as it might seem. By pulling away, you've sparked a sense of urgency in her mind. Suddenly she realizes she's not in charge anymore, which stirs something deep inside her. She doesn't want to confront you directly because that would mean admitting her feelings. Instead, she works behind the scenes, trying to figure out what's going on without showing her true emotions. In the world of Stoicism, this is where the power of detachment comes into play. By taking a step back, you're practicing one of its core principles, which is understanding what is within your control and letting go of what isn't. You're not trying to manipulate her, you're just focusing on yourself and your own peace of mind, which throws her off. She feels that shift in you, and it makes her question everything. When you step back, she may become more interested in you, constantly stalking your social media or asking friends about you. Let me know in the comments if you've personally experienced this. Now that you know how pulling away can change everything, it's time to think about it. Have you ever stepped back and her coming after you? Or are you seeing signs that she's trying to get back into your life? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below and share your experience, or just type, "The power is in my hands." It's always interesting to see how other people have handled this game of attraction. Number 6. 6. Happiness or sadness. It's possible that when you pull away, you're giving her exactly what she wanted, even if you didn't see it coming. Maybe she was emotionally worn out or didn't see a future with you. Your absence might have been a blessing in disguise, freeing her from a situation that no longer served her. She might breathe a sigh of relief and think, "Finally." I don't have to deal with this anymore. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but the Stoics teach that you must accept reality for what it is, not how you wish it were. You may have been holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. In this case, your leaving wasn't a loss for her. It was a gain. This is where Stoicism really shines through. Instead of holding on to the past, you learn to let go, knowing that no relationship can last on one person's work alone. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, regret. Here's where things get interesting. You disappeared, leaving her to her own thoughts. She may start to relive your last talks, remembering the good times, and slowly come to terms with the truth. She starts to think that she might have done something wrong. Maybe she forgot to respect what you brought to the table, or took you for granted. Suddenly the absence hits her harder than she thought it would, and she feels that prick of regret. This is where her ego starts to fight should she reach out. Is there still a chance to fix what was broken right now? You have the power, my friend. Stoicism teaches us to stay calm in these situations and not make hasty decisions based on our feelings. Her sadness. Wisdom tells you to think about what you want to do before you act. If she does reach out to talk, you need to ask yourself if you really want to go down that path again. It takes a real desire to rebuild, to let go of the games, and work on making something better for both people in a relationship to be able to save it. Stoics tell us to only think about the things we can change. You can't change how she feels or the choices she makes, but you can change how you react. That's where your power lies, whether she feels relieved or regretful. You must stay centered in your own sense of self-worth. If she's moved on, accept it with grace. If she feels bad about what she did, don't rush back into the relationship without first checking to see if things can really change. It's not just about feeling better or regret, it's also about knowing your worth and choosing the best path for you, whether that's giving her another chance or continuing on your own journey. As the Stoics would say, the most important thing is that you do it with purpose, calmness, and clarity. Freedom doesn't come from outside conditions, it comes from how strong you are on the inside. 7 times, she said. I'll play the game. Let's talk about something that many of you have probably experienced. When you pull away from a woman, the game of ego and emotion control starts. When you step back, maybe to give her some space, she might see it as a challenge, and some women will take it with a vengeance, thinking, he's pulling away, let's see who really has the power here. This is where things can get tricky. What started as you pulling away can quickly turn into a psychological tug-of-war. Stoicism teaches us how important it is to stay calm in the face of X-related events, and this is where that mindset becomes very important. As soon as she senses that you've pulled away, she may feel like she has no control over the situation, which can be unbearable for some. Instead of facing the feeling directly, she'll play the classic game of cat and mouse, which is meant to bring you back into the picture. One day, out of the blue, she texts you something casual, maybe even funny, and you start to feel like things are back to normal. But then, out of the blue, she disappears, leaving you staring at your phone with no answers or updates. By disappearing, she gets you to think about what she's doing and who she is with, which is exactly the reaction she wanted. You feel off balance, anxious, and questioning everything. In a way, she's turned the script on its head, making you the one who's being chased. This is where Stoicism comes into play. Marcus Aurelius would tell us that we can only control how we react to other people's actions. If she pulls these tricks on you, you have 2 choices. You can let yourself become confused and angry, or you can stay calm and ignore the chaos she's trying to cause. She might drop hints like, "Hope you're doing well," which makes you wonder if she really cares, Or is she just trying to keep you on the hook? You give her the upper hand because of your doubt, which makes you more anxious. Imagine you're at a party and see her across the room. You haven't seen her in a while, but all of a sudden, she's laughing and talking to someone else as if she's moved on. Without giving it a second thought, you might feel sick to your stomach, wondering what she's up to. But this is when being calm is your best trait. Epicurus said that how you respond to what happens to you is more important than what happens to you. You could let your anger and jealousy take over, or you could stay calm and know that her actions don't define your peace of mind. For her behavior is about getting back the control she feels she lost when you pulled away. It's not so much about you personally, it's about keeping her sense of power. She can't say that your withdrawal made her feel uncomfortable, so she plays these games to get you back. But here's the catch. If you get involved, you give her exactly what she wants, control. So what's the Stoic response to this game? Just let her play it alone. You don't have to respond to her cryptic messages or disappearances. You don't have to bother her to get information. Remember that your peace of mind is in your own hands. The moment you stop responding, the game loses its power. She may try to cause trouble, but your strength lies in your ability to not let it bother you. Will you fall for the trap or rise above it? That's the real question. Following the stern advice to keep calm during the storm, you have full power to decide. Number 8, the weight of silence. Think about it when you go, kinitig, how heavy silence is. When you go silent, you're not just leaving the conversation, you're entering her thoughts. Suddenly you're not there, and your absence is louder than any words you could have said. A lack of interest, a space she'll do everything she can to fill with questions. The silence starts to work its magic because it makes her think too much, and most of all, fear that you're going to leave her for good. This is so powerful because it taps into a very basic human emotion, fear of loss. No one likes to feel abandoned or left in the dark, and when you create that distance, she starts to feel uncomfortable in a way that makes her want to act. In this way, silence is more than just a break in communication. It's a powerful psychological tool from a Stoic point of view. Silence is more than just a mystery. Stoics teach us that our feelings shouldn't control what we do, and in this case, your silence shows how strong you are inside. You're not reacting to everything she says, and you're not jumping to explain yourself or look for approval. You are calm, sure of yourself, and not affected by the need to talk to her all the time. When you can control yourself in this way, people will value you because it shows that you don't need her approval to feel good about yourself. Also, my friend is very attractive. Let's say you've been dating a woman for a while and have been texting and calling her all the time. All of a sudden, you stop. She sends you a message, and this time you don't reply right away. She starts to wonder why you're not responding, which creates uncertainty. And where there's uncertainty, there's interest. She starts to think about you more than ever, replaying conversations, questioning her actions, and thinking about how she feels. This doesn't mean going weeks without leaving a trace, because that would look like manipulation. Balance is the key, as Stoicism teaches. Knowing when to pull back just enough to spark interest without making her angry can be tricky if you've always been available, but if you've always been independent, your silence becomes a part of your personality and a mystery she wants to solve. Let's face it, nobody likes someone who is always there to explain themselves, so if you're the guy who always responds within seconds, you become, dare I say it, boring. But when you pull back, you show her that your time and attention are valuable. You're not always at her disposal, which is what makes her want to chase after you. This is where the real power lies in controlling what you reveal. It's not just about being quiet, it's about mastering the art of silence as a way to communicate. There's no need to describe everything. Mystery is more interesting than clarity. Let her wonder, and think in that space of silence? She'll start to try to figure out what you're thinking and how she can win you back. But there's an important Stoic lesson here as well. Silence doesn't mean playing games. It's not about manipulating her emotions. It's about standing firm in your value. As Epictetus said, it's not things that bother us, but how we think about them. Your silence should come from a place of strength, not from a need to control or confuse her. When you know how valuable you are, being quiet is just an extension of that confidence. And you don't have to talk all the time to show her you're interested or win her approval. So how do you find the right balance? First, understand that your time and attention are gifts, not promises. When you learn to be silent, you make room for her to miss you and value your presence more when it's there. This is where the Stoic idea of detachment comes in. You're not attached to her response. You're content whether she chases after you or not because you're in charge of your feelings and actions. And here's the best part. When you finally do speak, your words will carry more weight because your silence has shown that you don't throw your words around carelessly. You're thoughtful, deliberate, and most of all, in charge. Remember that what matters most is not how much you say, but what you don't say. If you know how to use it right, quiet can be your most powerful weapon. As we've seen today, filling the silence can make the difference between being just another guy and becoming the man she can't stop thinking about. So the next time you want to fill the silence, think twice and let it work for you. After all, sometimes the loudest message you can send is the one you never say. Finally, there is the Stoic practice of detachment. It's clear that stepping back isn't just a way to make things more mysterious. It's also a way to protect your own peace of mind and let other people deal with their thoughts and actions. We learn about the importance of self-worth and independence in this way, and it also makes us think about how we interact with others in relationships, whether you're trying to spark interest again or just find balance in your interactions. The Stoic way of thinking gives us a strong way to control our actions and hopes. It tells us that the only thing we can really control in a relationship is ourselves. As you think about today's insights, think about how taking a step back might change the dynamics of your own relationship. How could a little distance help your friendship and personal growth? Remember that the end goal isn't just to get people interested or to make them react. It's to develop real self-respect and peace that others will naturally be drawn to. Now, if you found today's content helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more insights. Also, let me know what you think and have experienced about today's topic by leaving a comment below and rating this video on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best and 1 being the worst. Your feedback helps us make our videos better and more relevant to your interests. Before you leave, make sure to watch the videos on your screen for more Stoic wisdom and useful advice on how to deal with life's problems. Join us as we go deeper, get motivated, and let's keep going on this path of self-discovery and growth together. Thanks for watching, and remember that the Stoics said, "The obstacle is the way." Keep going, and I'll see you in the next video.